Have you ever given an employee what you thought were clear instructions to do A, B, and C, and then the next day they showed up with X, Y, 7, and 9? It can be extremely frustrating that that thing that you thought was going to be off your to-do list is back on, because instead of explaining how to do it again and have them get it wrong again, it's easier just to do it yourself. But why is it this happens? Is it them? Is it they're just incompetent, they can't do it, and all the other crazy thoughts you have about them when they don't do it right? Well, it's easy to point the finger there, but many times where the problem is over here. It's looking at the instructions we're giving. So in this video, I want to explain why, even when we think we're giving crystal clear instructions, does somebody often hear it differently? And a simple process that you can follow to give clear instructions so when you ask for A, B, and C, you get A, B, and C the first time. Hi, I'm Chris Littlefield. I'm the founder of Beyond Thank You, and I spent over 15 years helping leaders at top companies around the world build and maintain relationships where their people feel valued and where great work gets done. Let's jump in. So why do these breakdowns in communication happen in the first place, especially when we think we're giving extremely clear instructions? Well, one of the factors that comes into play that we often don't take account for is that what we see in our mind is not what the other person sees when we explain it in words. Now, if you've ever been around somebody who was singing a song that you could tell was clearly playing in their head, but it didn't sound like Beyonce when they were singing it out loud. This is a phenomenon that was identified by a Stanford graduate student back in the 90s. It was Elizabeth Newton, and she did a study where she brought 120 different participants together, and she broke them into two groups. There was one group of people who were going to be tapping songs on a table, common songs like Happy Birthday and Jingle Bells, and prior to doing it, they were asked to predict how many of those songs the person guessing would guess correctly. And on average, they predicted that the person guessing would guess 50% of the songs that they were tapping on the table. How many did people actually get right? 2.5%. Now, why is that? Because the exact thing I was just explaining a second ago is that when we're tapping along that song, we hear Happy Birthday and Jingle Bells playing in our head, but the other person just hears whatever we're tapping. And so when we're giving instructions, we are giving instructions from a point of reference that we have from past experience with that task. Maybe we've done that report before. Maybe we've organized that event before. Maybe we've gone to see that client and had that sales conversation before. And so we have that point of reference and we can see it in our mind. But when we go to explain it, we often leave out the details that the person on the other side needs to be able to produce the same result you did. So when we're giving instructions, we need to make sure that we amplify the image that's in our head and make sure that we confirm that the person that we're sharing them with sees that same picture the way we do when they go to do the task. So what's the critical information that we need to include when giving instructions? First, one, what we need. What is the end result going to look like? Two, how we need that end result. Is it in a Word document? Is it a PowerPoint? Is it a rough draft? Is it a final draft? Is it an event you're organizing or a calendar invite? And when possible, if you have an example of having done this in the past that you can attach to the request, that makes it easier for the person to understand exactly what you need. And this leads to the third thing, when you need it and why you need it at that time. I need it at 8 a.m. tomorrow because I have a meeting with a client in 3, and this is going to help me prepare so I can close the sale in that meeting. And that leads us to the fourth thing, and one of the things that people often leave out, which is the context for which you need it. I need this document because this is the information I need because we have this important sales meeting. And so we're bringing this all together so I can present this to the client. So I need it in a formal PowerPoint because I'm going to be sharing it with them at 3 o'clock and this is going to help us close that sale. Or I need you to bring this cart with this specific medical equipment over to this room because we have a surgery at this time. And although this isn't what the surgery is about, this is our backup plan because sometimes this happens and we need to have this on hand just in case because this is what the physician wants there. So we need to give the context around the task. So some people can hear this process and say, Chris, this is way too much detail. I don't have time to give these instructions. But in reality, think about how much time we waste when we don't give these details, when we don't give this information. And it really is only a 3 to 5 minute investment. And those 3 to 5 minutes that you invest to give all those details are going to save you hours, if not days in the future, and take those tasks that are getting back onto your to-do list and making sure the employee who's there to support you is able to do them. And the other thing that's important to remember is that once somebody's done a task, and maybe you ask for A, B, and C, and they show up with A, B, and D the first time, well, that's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, you know what? This is exactly what I needed, and I understand why that last thing you did a little bit differently. Next time, here's what I want you to be able to do. And then the next time when they do it and they get A, B, and C the first time, you acknowledge them for that so they understand and have a point of reference. That's exactly what I want. And once you build this relationship with an employee, that over time, you're not going to have to give these details. You're going to say, hey, we have another one of those surgeries coming up in room such and such. Can you get the cart? And you don't need to explain because you have a shared point of reference together. Or I need that PowerPoint at 8 a.m. because I have a client meeting at 3. And they'll know exactly what you need without taking the time to explain it. Now, miscommunications are going to still happen. So here are a couple additional tips to be able to help avoid them in the future. Now, one, many times we give instructions during a meeting or walking by somebody in the hall, but many times it's better, and this is something I often do with some of the people on my team, is I'll actually, whether you use Slack or Teams or you have the person's cell phone, I'll actually record a message with all these details. Hey, I've got this such and such coming up. Here's the result I need. Here's how I need it. Here's when I need it and why I need it at that time. And here's the context of how I'm going to use it. And I record it in a voicemail. And the reason why I do that is that many times we assign something on maybe Friday afternoon, but they're not going to be able to get to it until the following Thursday. And they're not going to necessarily remember what we talked about because they're running from one thing to another. And although they may jot down some notes of what they need to do, those notes aren't going to be as clear as hearing it directly from us in the end. Now, another great tool that you can use is Loom, and Loom is a plugin you can add to your Chrome browser or whatever browser you use, and there's also a plugin you can use on your phone which allows you to record a video message to somebody or actually a video in a screen sharing. So you can have a document up on your screen, you can talk about exactly what you need or even feedback on what you need right there on the screen, click done, and then it will automatically generate a link that you can drop into Slack or Teams or chat or whatever it is, or even send in a text message. If you want to learn how to use Loom, I created a video that you'll find on my YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the video description. It is free to use, I think up to like 25 videos, and many times you don't need more than that. Now, another great technique that we can use to minimize miscommunications is the playback, is that after you give verbal instructions to somebody, you can ask them to share back what they heard. Now, many times people avoid doing this because they think it's going to sound condescending or they think that, the person didn't get it and they don't want to make the other person uncomfortable. But if that person isn't able to do the task the way they need to, that's going to be even more uncomfortable. So make an agreement with your people. Say, hey, I want to avoid miscommunications, and I know that I'm always not clear on what I'm asking for. So could you just play back what I just said that I needed so we make sure we're on the same page? Okay, so what I understand you need is you need a PowerPoint document. Actually, you know what? I'm glad you said that. I don't need a PowerPoint. I actually need it in a Word document. Okay, and here's why. Oh, great, perfect. Okay, I need it by such and such time. Yep, that's exactly right. Great, we're on the same page. And taking that 2 to 3 minutes just to do that playback ensures that you both are aligned on what you need. Now, another technique that I like to do is if this is a larger task, have a check-in period. Say, hey, you know what? I want you to do page 1 through 3 of this process. And then once you get to point 3, I want you to reach back out to me. Let me know how long is it taking you to do this? What are you running into? And let's just confirm you're on the right track so we don't waste a bunch of time on doing everything and that we can problem solve along the way. And that way, when somebody starts the task, if it's a longer task, we can check in to confirm. And if someone's taking 10 hours to do something that should be 10 minutes, then you can correct there and make sure you're not wasting time, both for them and for you, and you can get them on the right track. When we take the time to do these little small steps, then we avoid those miscommunications, we increase our success rate as a manager, we increase the success rate and the confidence of our employees, and they can expand to do other tasks, and then everybody wins in that process. And just remember, it's the little things that we do each day that send signals to our people that we value them, and one of those is investing time to make sure that they're successful in their tasks and that they're learning and growing every single day at work. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did and you're watching on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe and share at least one other person that you know it'll make a difference for. And together, Let's build cultures where people feel valued and appreciated every single day. Take care.